So just beginning in standing position and just gently starting to shift your weight back and forth, side to side, just all around the base of those feet. If standing doesn't feel supportive to you, you can do this sitting, but still same thing, kind of just really touching into that connection with your feet and the floor. If you're standing and it feels good to you, you can just sort of slowly, with the arms really, really, really heavy, just gently kind of glide side to side, gently twisting, letting the arms kind of flap back behind you. You can lift the heel or keep both the feet grounded as you just sort of gently swing the arms side to side. Sometimes I picture like a coat with no arms in the sleeves, just kind of flapping back and forth. You can do this in the chair too, just sort of pull up in the chair a little bit so you have some room to move the arms. You can't do quite as much flapping because of just like you don't want to hit your arm on the chair, but just kind of gently moving the spine side to side. We're going to let out several sigh breaths as we're doing this, or you can stop the movement, whatever calls to you. Inhaling through the nose and exhaling out of the mouth with an audible sigh. And we're going to do this quite a few times, so really get into it as much as you're willing. Let the inhale through the nose be deep, but not forcing anything. And get as loud and weird with your sighs as you're willing. Let the belly be as soft as possible, the shoulders, the face softening as much as possible. Let's do that sigh 3 more times. If you're still sort of flapping the wings, flapping your arms or arm, because maybe, we all got different stuff going on. Slowing that down if you're still moving that spine like that. If you're already in stillness, just noticing what it feels like to come back into a more natural breath cycle for you. Once the arms are totally they've sort of stopped all that movement, just letting them hang. Even if in your chair, it can be really nice to put the arms kind of off the sides and let the hands be really heavy and just let the arms hang. Maybe just kind of twisting and moving the hands and wrists, shaking out the hands. If you're standing, kind of bouncing, letting the hips feel heavy, the buttocks kind of loose and fleshy. If you're in the chair, you can kind of bounce a little bit on the chair if that's available to you. Honestly, any of these movements, if it's just you do it and you're like, no, thank you, your body says that, then just don't do it. I know that's so simplistic, and then you can feel like, oh, then what do I do? Be in that breath cycle. Be in that breath cycle as much as possible. And here, the invitation is just to kind of get a little bit of movement into the hips. So maybe if you're in a chair and bouncing doesn't feel right or good, again, pulling forward a little bit on the chair, you can just kind of roll the torso around the bowl of the pelvis. A few times in one direction, a few times in the other direction. You can do this too if you're standing. Just kind of roll the upper body around the lower body. Still bouncing all the while or not. Really just kind of trying to move some locked up energy. It's one of the things I notice about anxiety, for example, or stress tension. it's kind of these, I sense it as this cluster of like cloistered, tight, bound, like, just like bound up. I don't know. Energy is such a loaded word. Some people love it, some people don't. And we all have different definitions of it. So let me try to say it a different way. Like these bound up balls of cellular activity that just need to have some movement. Kind of just move it around. And using the breath as much as you're able and willing to kind of encourage and open into greater a sense of expansiveness rather than, again, this kind of closed off tight feeling. So whether you're in a chair or standing, if it's available to you on your next inhale, just rising those arms up overhead. If that's not available to you, what's so powerful about our brains is that you can just visualize yourself doing that. As you inhale, arms, just visualizing them rising above the head, and then as you exhale, visualize just gently letting them fall back down to the sides. Even if the physical body can't do it, if the brain imagines it, it can have the exact same effect on the body, which is just like, whoa. Whenever I think about that, that just kind of makes me feel like life is just this wild, mysterious miracle. So whether you're imagining it or doing it, let's do that several times. Inhale, arms up overhead. Exhale, let them come floating back down. Inhaling. Exhaling. And as you inhale, we're really like opening up the chest cavity, bringing those arms overhead. And again, even if that's not available to you, you can even kind of open the chest just by rolling the shoulders back and down a little bit. Let that breath in a little bit further, maybe down into the lobes of the lungs, and then exhale out of the mouth or out of the nose. I love exhaling out of the mouth when I'm feeling any kind of agitation or tightness or anxiety. It helps kind of equalize me in some way. Hard to explain in words, but try it out if you want. I exhaling out of the mouth too with this kind of ha sound, like you're fogging a mirror, I find really releasing and calming for me. So try it if you want, as we do just maybe 3 more times. Inhaling, arms up overhead, or imagining it, or just opening up that chest a little bit more by rolling the shoulders down. Exhale, arms float back down, or shoulders just float back down. Letting out with that ha breath if you like or not. Last one. Oh, and just kind of noticing yourself come into a little bit more stillness in the body. And that doesn't mean you have to stop moving completely. Maybe that feels really soothing to you, just a gentle rocking. But just not doing quite as much movement as we've been doing just now. Feel the feet again. Soften as much as possible that belly. Letting the face relax as much as possible. If the eyes haven't been closed, let them be closed. Let them just kind of soften into themselves so that right now it's more of an experience of internal sensing than external digestion and sensing. Just breathing a little bit softly here, just like a gentle breeze, just gentle inhale, gentle exhale. And then you can stay right here if this just feels so nourishing, this kind of quieter place with the gentle flow of breath as this kind of anchor of the attention. We'll just gently keep returning. I always think the attention's like this little boat out in the ocean, and it just sort of floats off into all different directions. And if I so choose, the breath can be the literal anchor that it can only go so far. And then the breath is like, hey, I'm here. And you're like, oh, right, the breath. And then I'll stay there for a little bit, and then the boat floats off again. So you can stay just in that really soft and gentle awareness of the breath. Or if you'd like, whether you're in the chair or standing, still with those arms really heavy, preparing to fold forward. So if you know folding forward just is not right for your body, stay in this gentle awareness of the breath. If that speaks to you, slowly just tilting the chin towards the chest, again, letting those arms, hands, wrists be heavy. If you're standing, letting the knees be soft, feet are hip width apart or wider, so you can just really feel very supported by the base of the feet. Same as if you're in the chair too, let the feet really feel connected to the earth. And just slowly rolling the torso towards the earth. Going only as deeply as the body wants to. The mind can tell us, oh, the deeper I go, the deeper is better. But that's not always true for our bodies, our minds, our hearts. So this comes into that place of just discerning for yourself in this moment how far feels like enough. And then hanging there, whether you're in the chair or in the standing space. Letting the head feel really heavy, arms and hands really heavy. Keep those knees soft if you're standing. That's so important, just to not to stress the joints of the knees or the hips. And here, so whether you've decided to do a forward fold or not, coming into that sweet awareness of the flowing nature of the breath. Keep it really simple. The mind loves to at least my mind loves to complicate things sometimes. Maybe yours does too. So just keeping it so simple. Just, can you watch how the breath flows in? Where does it go in the body? And then watch as it flows out. How does it leave the body? Anytime the boat of our attention kind of bobs away, let the breath kind of anchor you back, the body anchor you back. Back to that simple flowing quality of the breath. And let's hang out here together for just a couple of minutes in quietness, really just honoring and letting the act of paying attention to your breath, if you do that, and if that arrives for you, as this act of great friendship towards yourself. Like, when I let myself just pay attention to something simple and that's here and real in my body, I can just give myself that spaciousness of friendship for a little while, and then go back out into whatever needs to be done. So either in forward fold or just sitting, let's spend a couple of quiet minutes together in this space, just bringing that attention, that kind attention to the breath again and again and again. If you're in forward fold and it feels good, you can just sway side to side too if you'd like. Honestly, just do whatever the body is asking for or yearning for, or just kind of an intuitive, like, oh, I want to try this. See if you can just sort of follow that guidance of the body wherever you decide to be. If you're folded forward, just slowly, slowly, slowly start to roll your way back up to seated or standing. If you already were in seated and not forward folding, just kind of letting your attention open up to things outside of the breath. Maybe noticing the feet on the floor again. Noticing the contact of the body with the chair. And maybe once again inviting those sighing breaths several times. Just kind of this really intentional release of heat and of sound if you want as well. Inhaling through the nose if that's available to you. Just letting the breath just sort of come back into that more neutral, natural rhythm. Doing any subtle or kind of grosser movements with the body that the body might be asking of you, which kind of maybe sounds strange if you've never really listened to the body, but the body can ask. I notice the body can ask things of me that maybe the mind has a plan, and the body's like, no, actually, would you mind, doing this with me, or stretching in this way, or just being still, or laying down. And it's amazing when I can tune into that. It's like, oh, okay, let me just listen. So taking these last few minutes that we're sharing together to listen to the body. If you're in the chair, maybe you're like, I do want to stand up. Maybe if you're standing, you're like, oh, I would like to sit down. Maybe you're like, oh, laying down, that feels right for me right now. And then wherever you decide to go then, standing, seated, laying, decide if you want to move or be in sort of a quietness with the body. And let the decision, and this is the beautiful challenge of deep listening, come rather from the mind, so like those thoughts, the stories, the planning, but from the body, which, at least for me, the body's quieter than the mind is. My mind can be so loud, and so can the heart. And the body can be loud sometimes too, particularly when it's in pain. But see if you can listen to kind of that lower tenor of the body that just could ask for maybe like, oh, I'd love if we could move in this way. Or, oh, I feel kind of tight here. Could you try to find length or expansion using the breath or using a movement? Something that's been really interesting for me in my practice is starting to trust my body more, doing intuitive movement rather than some sort of form like dance or yoga or tai chi. They're so beautiful, but they're often very formed in some ways. So seeing what it looks like to kind of come out of form and see if the body can ask you to move in a certain way. Sometimes my body just wants me to like shake out the hands and arms and legs and face and butt and belly and everything. Sometimes my body wants me to just kind of roll around on the floor. Sometimes my body wants me to just lay or sit, just come into a really, really restful, quiet stillness. What does your body want to do right now for the next couple of minutes together? And where I've landed, it's like there's no right or wrong when it comes to moving the body, unless it's like a practice of force of some kind, like where it goes into harming the body or harming ourselves in some way. But otherwise, if I move slowly, if I'm like really in deep listening, I don't injure myself, and it ends up feeling really, really nourishing, even if it's a movement or something that I've never done before. Letting the breath just flow, and we're just gonna come into shared quietness together so that we can listen to the body. So let's do deep listening to the body for 2 minutes together. I'll see you on the other side. Noticing how that felt to just try to deeply listen to the body for a couple of minutes. I can find it sort of liberating sometimes. The mind works so hard sometimes, and it's like, oh, buddy, you are allowed to rest. And so it can feel kind of cool to just sort of give over the, reins or something to the body or to the heart, so the mind can just like, I sometimes try to imagine my mind just sort of like laying in a hammock, just not having to call the shots and letting the body lead for a little while. So either letting this kind of start to be the sort of the end of your practice, or you can just sort of stay in intuitive movement for as long as you like. But let's just intentionally, you and me, close together, hand on your heart if that feels good, or on your belly. And closing this practice of just movement and breath, and keep going if it calls out, with a humming breath, if you care to join me. Inhaling through the nose, or if that's not available, of course, through the mouth, and then exhaling with a humming sound. Again, if you can't do it for whatever reason, or you don't want to do it, you can just imagine like a humming vibration moving through your whole body, even if you're not actually making a hum. Like, again, the power of the imagination is astounding. If you decide to hum, again, let it be as it's kind of like I said about the breath earlier. It's like, let it not be a practice of force. It's just, I keep having this phrase come to me lately, like, be easy. And not easy like convenient, but like easy like, what is the next best thing in this moment, and how do I not just force things or rush things or bombard things with the way I think they should be. And so the hum, it's like the hum doesn't have to sound a certain way or even feel a certain way. Like, can I just sort of let it kind of pour out of me and let my body just soften around it as much as possible, my mind soften around it as much as possible, and my heart, and just letting that hum, the vibration, move through me, whether imagined or felt. And maybe even if you're not doing it, you can feel the vibration that I'm sending out through my hum. And we'll do it 3 times. And that's how we'll close our practice together. Preparing with a deep inhalation. We'll hum our way away from each other.